A South Vietnamese interrogator holds a wooden dowel against a prisoner's ear canal. One strike of the mallet will drive it through the temporal bone into the brain. The man dies within seconds. His name is crossed off a computer-generated list compiled 8,000 miles away at CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. This is not an anomaly. This is Operation Phoenix. Welcome to Blacklight Archives. Kindly comment below where you are watching from and the time you are seeing this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's go. In July 1967, MACV Directive 381-41 formally established the Phoenix program, officially known by its Vietnamese name, Phung Hoang. The stated mission was intelligence coordination. To identify members of the Viet Cong infrastructure, the communist political apparatus operating in South Vietnamese villages, and neutralize them through arrest, defection programs, or targeted operations. The CIA described it as an effort to improve intelligence collection and coordination among various security services. American and South Vietnamese officials emphasized legal procedures. 3 separate sources of evidence were required to convict an individual targeted for neutralization. The program operated through District Intelligence and Operations Coordination Centers and Provincial Intelligence and Operations Coordination Centers, where intelligence from multiple agencies would be analyzed and acted upon. William Colby, the CIA officer overseeing the program, later testified that Phoenix aimed to capture Viet Cong cadre, to not assassinate civilians. Phoenix emerged from a classified program called ICX, Intelligence Coordination and Exploitation. The CIA funded and supervised Provincial Reconnaissance Units, teams of 15 to 20 fighters operating in 44 provinces across South Vietnam. These PRUs consisted of approximately 4,200 to 5,000 operatives, many of them former Viet Cong who had defected, criminals released from prison, and South Vietnamese special forces. Their primary mission was described as capturing Viet Cong agents for intelligence extraction, but capture meant something specific. Intelligence was extracted at interrogation centers using methods detailed in operational manuals distributed to both American and Vietnamese personnel. K. Barton Osborne, a U.S. military intelligence officer assigned to Phoenix from 1967 to 1968, testified before Congress about procedures he witnessed and was instructed to implement. He described the insertion of dowels into ear canals hammered through the skull into the brain. Electric torture applied to genitals of both men and women before execution. These were not rogue operations, they were outlined procedures. Phoenix empowered village and district officials to meet monthly neutralization quotas. Anyone killed was documented as an enemy agent, regardless of actual status. Large numbers of peasants were rounded up. Those who could pay bribes were released. Those who could not were tortured for intelligence, then executed. Corrupt village officials exploited the system to settle personal vendettas while meeting their required numbers. The program operated on a simple metric, body count. Between 1968 and 1972, a Phoenix officially neutralized 81,740 people suspected of Viet Cong membership. Of those, 26,369 were killed. The CIA claimed 87% of deaths resulted from conventional military operations by South Vietnamese and American forces, attributing only 13% directly to Phoenix operatives. But South Vietnamese government statistics told a different story. They reported 40,994 killed between August 1968 and mid-1971. A Department of Defense analyst found that 616 suspected VCI were killed by Phoenix forces in just 15 months, from January 1970 to March 1971. State Department officials admitted that during Nixon's first 2.5 years, the CIA-run Phoenix program murdered or abducted 35,708 Vietnamese civilians. After the war, the Vietnamese officials called Phoenix extremely destructive and a devious and cruel operation that cost the loss of thousands of our people. International peace and human rights organizations placed the death toll between 75,000 and 90,000, the majority being peasants who could not buy their way off the computer-generated death lists. The program remained classified until public pressure forced acknowledgement. On July 19, 1971, William Colby testified before a Senate subcommittee. He stated that Phoenix had killed 21,587 Vietnamese citizens between January 1968 and May 1971. When asked directly whether Phoenix had ever perpetrated the premeditated killing of a civilian in a non-combat situation, Colby replied, "No, I could not say that. I certainly would not say never." But he later conceded before Congress that Phoenix led to the deaths of 20,000 civilians and admitted some unjustifiable abuses occurred, including illegal killing. Colby maintained that torture during interrogation and execution after capture were not part of Phoenix as a matter of policy. Documents declassified decades later revealed operational reality contradicted official testimony. One Phoenix operative, a veteran who had served in Czechoslovakia during World War II, compared his work to Nazi commanders. He said the reports he sent on communists neutralized reminded him of reports Hitler's concentration camp commanders sent to Himmler, each lying about kill numbers to please superiors. Kenneth Osborne, another Phoenix program officer, called it sterile, depersonalized murder. After Colby's testimony, congressional inquiries stalled. No prosecutions followed. The exact number of innocent civilians killed remains disputed. The computer databases used to generate kill lists were never made public. The criteria for inclusion on those lists were never fully disclosed, and the operational procedures outlined in training manuals for interrogation and assassination were never officially acknowledged beyond Osborne's testimony. When Phoenix officially ended in 1972, its methods did not disappear. They were studied, refined, adopted into doctrine for future counterinsurgency operations conducted by U.S. intelligence agencies and allied governments worldwide. Human rights investigators have documented similar interrogation techniques in later conflicts. The debate over Phoenix continues among historians and policymakers. Some argue it successfully dismantled Viet Cong infrastructure. Others argue it murdered tens of thousands of civilians based on faulty intelligence, personal grudges, and fabricated evidence to meet arbitrary quotas. What remains classified, the full scope of CIA involvement in individual assassinations, the complete list of American personnel who authorized or conducted executions, and the operational guidelines that governed the program beyond what congressional testimony revealed. The kill lists existed, the quotas were real, the deaths are documented. What was never answered, how many names on those lists were actual enemies, and how many were simply inconvenient. Thanks for watching to the end. Drop your comments and questions below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye.